So we're back to my old nemesis, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This is the third time I've watched this piece of shit. I recently saw some of a video by a guy named FilmSpeak, who I mostly really like. It's a guy whose content I got into fairly recently. Now that wasn't the reason I decided to revisit The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The main reason for revisiting it was because of No Way Home. Because now that No Way Home is bringing 5 villains from the Raimi trilogy and the Web duology, it became required viewing. So I already recorded a rant on the editor's cut of Spider-Man 3, which I don't know if I posted yet or not. We'll see. But this fucking movie, it's a movie I don't want to hate. It's a movie where the sum of its parts are good. This is a visually stunning film. This is a beautiful fucking movie. This has some of the best cinematography since the original Spider-Man 2. This is a gorgeous film. If someone tells you that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is an ugly looking movie, they're a fucking idiot. But production design, special effects, and good cinematography, solid lighting most of the time, do not make a bad movie good. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is held back by its goddamn screenplay and the editing. Everybody back in the day went into how there were scenes in the trailers that weren't in the film. How the parent shit is stupid and pointless. The fact that that is still a crutch that this franchise held on to. Actually, it wasn't a crutch. It is one of the main driving factors for the plot of the film. The story of Richard and Mary Parker and the conspiracy thriller elements of Oscorp. And you know what that made? That made one of the most convoluted, bloated, stupid fucking Spider-Man movies of all time. Let me talk about the good things about this movie, because, surprisingly, there are good elements. So the stuff between Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker, despite it also being convoluted, are the highlights of this movie. Mostly. I'll get to that. Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone had great chemistry. Dan DeHaan did a good job, mostly, as Harry Osborn. Jamie Foxx, was a good Electro. Towards the latter parts of this movie, he feels like a substantial threat. In another movie that had a better screenplay, these are elements that should have worked. If this entire movie, if Sony and Avi Arad had been less fucking focused on trying to make their MCU, this movie probably would have been all the better for it. But we have The Amazing Spider-Man 2. We have to judge it as is, not what I want it to be, or what some people want it to be. So as is, what holds this movie back is everything, and I do mean everything, having to do with this Oscorp pseudo conspiracy thriller shit. There are superhero movies that have conspiracy thriller aspects to them, and they mostly work fairly well. This movie, on the other hand, doesn't do that. And that's primarily due to several factors. Factor 1. The parent subplot doesn't have the weight that the movie wants it to have. The parent stuff comes off as an afterthought. It distracts from Peter Parker's struggle, his desire to be with Gwen, versus his duty to the city of New York. So you could say he goes back to his parents as a desire to learn more about himself, to reconnect with an element of his past that he feels is missing from his life. The depths this movie goes to with trying to make this important feel so hollow. It's hollow because they're trying to make something like this big revelation that really doesn't work. That feels like a betrayal of one of the key appeals of Spider-Man. In the Roosevelt scene, where we're supposed to have this great emotional catharsis, where Peter Parker is looking at a video from his father, of his regrets, of him telling the truth about Oscorp, and having the big information dump that the spider blood, that the blood he used for testing these super spiders was his own blood, which implies, no, it doesn't imply shit. It slams you on the head with a baseball bat, if you will, that Peter Parker was destined to be Spider-Man because his father genetically made the spiders that way. And I'm looking at this scene and going, oh yeah, now I remember why I hate this fucking movie. And despite there being a lot of solid elements or things I was trying to like this time around, these references to characters within the Spider-Man franchise, like Black Cat and Alistair Smythe, and even references to the Daily Bugle, having Chris Cooper as Norman Osborn, having Dan DeHaan as Harry Osborn, having Jamie Foxx as Electro, you still have what ultimately feels hollow. The climax of this movie is a textbook example of a bloated finale. You have Electro taking control of the Oscorp power grid, causing all this havoc, all this chaos. New York is having this end-of-the-world crisis scenario that only Spider-Man can stop. And Gwen Stacy comes in to help and tells him to magnetize his web shooters so that he can better help, so he can fight Electro better. But then because this movie has to have Gwen die, because they're not even being subtle with it, her outfit is taken straight from the comics. If you're a fan of Spider-Man, you have a subconscious awareness that Gwen Stacy is going to die. What events lead to Gwen Stacy dying? Well, she puts herself in a dangerous fucking scenario that she has no business being in whatsoever. So she helps Peter take down Electro, which I think frankly took away from what would have been a much more interesting battle between Spider-Man and Electro. A much more intense fight, I might add. And then, because you have to have the Green Goblin, what do? Because you can't have Gwen Stacy in this outfit ripped from the comic book without having Green Goblin kill her, even though really, it's not really Harry's fault, and that's kind of the crazy part. They crash through this clock tower, and Peter puts Gwen on this shitty platform. Now, I can understand, frankly, that Peter's in a life or death struggle, and he's trying to save Gwen, he's trying to fight Harry, so he's fucked no matter what he does, right? And then the web gets cut by the clock, Gwen falls, Peter tries to catch her, Gwen dies. And it's supposed to be this emotional moment. This moment where, as an audience member, I'm supposed to cry. I'm supposed to be bawling in the theater. Or bawling while watching on my TV. And as a viewer, the only thing I can think is, Gwen Stacy in this movie's a dumbass. Not through most of it, but when she decides to go back with Peter, she is a dumbass. I'm gonna be frank, Gwen Stacy's death is really her own damn fault, despite the editing, the cinematography, the music, really trying to make me give a damn about Gwen Stacy's death and feel sorry for Peter. I felt really nothing. To be frank, actually that's not true. I did tear up a little bit because Andrew Garfield pours his heart and soul into this scene. It's a beautifully acted scene. On its own, this is a fantastic scene. What leads up to it, it's fucking stupid. And that's the shitty part about it. Doesn't have the gut punch it should, because it doesn't feel like Peter's fault. In the original comics, Gwen Stacy is just collateral damage within the Goblin's quest to break Spider-Man. If you've read that comic, Peter has this scene where it looks like he's almost going to kill him. And then, of course, Goblin dies by his own glider. Now, that's Norman, not Harry. The major difference is Gwen Stacy didn't put herself in danger deliberately. She didn't put herself in a high-risk situation. Now you can make the case, well, when people are in love, they don't always make the most rational choices. Gwen Stacy does this because she goes, you know what? I know Oscorp Tech. I've worked at Oscorp for a few years. I can help him. I still hate this movie. That's the long and short of it. I hate that I wasn't bawling my eyes out at Gwen Stacy's death scene. I hate that I can't enjoy this movie. It really felt this time around that I was going to like it. Because I rewatched The Amazing Spider-Man 1, and I liked it. I might even go as far to say I loved it this time. I almost rediscovered my love for The Amazing Spider-Man 1. Is it as good as the first two Raimi films? I wouldn't go that far. I would say there are moments that feel like it's on that league. And that it's a much better film than Spider-Man 3. But then when I go to this movie, man, does it feel like a downgrade. It has these moments that should feel epic. It has these moments that are stunning, that should build suspense, that should put me on the edge of my seat. If I was just watching these scenes like these little clips with no other context to the larger plot, I should say, then I might look at it and go, wow, this looks like a damn great superhero film. This looks like a damn great movie. This is a movie people shit on? The Amazing Spider-Man 2, this gorgeous looking film, this stunning spectacle is what some people hate and declare is the worst Spider-Man movie? Are they crazy? But then when you watch it, at least with me, I'm baffled by the creative decisions. I'm baffled that this movie is as bad as it is. I'm hurt as a Spider-Man fan, as a superhero movie fan, as someone who loves movies. Because I want to like this movie. I want to feel emotionally invested, but I can't. And what hurts is, rewatching this a third time, I'm almost at the same levels of anger I was when I first saw it. And that really sucks. Because when I was watching it this time, to be frank, I was a little tipsed. So I was thinking, oh, I'll enjoy it. And then I'm looking at some scenes going, this is some dumb shit, man. This is some real dumb shit. I envy those of you who like this movie, because this is one of the most visually stunning movies I have ever seen in my life. This is one of the most visually stunning superhero films of all time. The cinematography in this is amazing. This has a lot of stunning moments. It's just a shame that the story sucks. And I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for this. I'm going to give this movie either a 4.5 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10 once again. And that's a shame. I'm left wondering, how do you waste such a talented cast and crew? How do you waste such gorgeous cinematography? How do you waste actors who wanted to give it their all? How do you just throw that all away in favor of trying to ride the cinematic universe gravy train? Because that's what this movie really feels like in terms of the story. There's an editing choice in here that fucking pissed me off. Because it's right after Gwen dies. And you have this beautiful sequence where it's after Gwen's funeral and months pass by. And Peter, it feels like every day or every week, he has visited Gwen's grave. And he's just given up on being Spider-Man. Because he feels like being Spider-Man only does more harm than good. And it's a shame. It's a shame that this movie does the Spider-Man No More thing like the original Spider-Man 2. Because if you look at that movie, it did it so much better. But the way this movie does it, even though it's so short, even though it's at the end of the movie, like the last 10 minutes, God, is it good. It feels like the movie's starting to say something. It's Spider-Man's return, admittedly corny as hell, does have the concept of this triumphant return. Too bad this movie tried to be more than it should have. This is a movie that had potential to be so damn good. I can see the heart and soul that went into this movie. Because it doesn't feel like a cash grab. That's what hurts. It doesn't feel like the soulless corporate monstrosity, even though that's what Avi Arad and Sony were trying to make this thing to be. This feels like a filmmaker trying to make the best damn movie he could, trying to succeed his previous endeavors with this character. It's like you have Mark Webb trying to make the best damn Spider-Man movie he can make. And then there's Sony and Avi Arad going, hey Marky boy, put in some cinematic universe. Distract from your vision. Take away from what should be your masterpiece. What should be your Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2. Take away from what should put you on the levels of other amazing superhero film directors. And put in the Sinister Six for us. Put in the Rhino. Do this convoluted thriller shit. Come on, Marky boy. Be our little puppet. Dance, puppet. Dance. Distract from your vision for us. Even though the heart and soul of this movie is Peter and Gwen, take away from that by focusing on Oscorp. And don't be subtle about it, Mark. Be heavy-handed. Be really heavy-handed with Peter Parker's guilt at putting Gwen in these possible life or death situations by having Captain Stacy come back. Bring back Dennis Leary for a good paycheck for about 10 seconds of screen time. Because that's what this movie needed. More heavy-handedness. More convoluted nonsense. Goddamn do I hate this fucking movie. I hate it because I want to love it. I hate it because I want to like it. It hurts. It hurts to hate a movie that has one of your favorite characters in it. This movie hurts as a Spider-Man fan, as a superhero movie fan, and as a movie buff. Because, as I've said time and time again, this had potential to be so good. And if you love it, I envy you, because I want to be there with you. And after a third viewing of this thing, I think I can sadly confirm I will never be there with you in loving this movie. Thanks for watching this long-ass rant. Live long and prosper and have a great day.